liberty, and justice for all.
Do you want to put that in? Everybody's here with Jack? We don't have any old minutes to go through.
We don't, he didn't bring any.
Public comment? Wayne, Paul?
I'd like,
Go ahead, Gary.
I was just gonna say, I'd like to shift the old business, this, down below the new business. So,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
New business. We got two subdivisions. Bill, whichever one you want to do first.
Doesn't matter. We got the Fleer subdivision. And it is the old Vaney Farm out there on Prisoners Road. And what they're taking is a 2-acre parcel for their daughter or son, not for the acreage.
No, this doesn't have to be perked though, right?
No.
That's good, he's getting a non-building waiver on this?
Yeah, I believe there is some non-building waiver right there.
Yeah, I believe it states it on the
Right
local
there.
law.
Right there on top, non-building waiver.
And you did say that the sewage was checked? on it?
Yes, I just looked at my calendar, he was there November 20th.
Right.
Yeah, it was noted on the application the day that he was scheduled to be there, but I didn't have anything saying he was there or not.
Yeah, I didn't get any report back
Yeah,
yet.
and I asked, I had my paper that they gave me at the office when I went to apply, and I said, do you have to fill this out? And he goes, no, I'll
Gary,
tell
got
the
any
office
questions?
and they'll send it to you guys, so I don't.
I don't know if it came here just for the
Okay.
holiday, it could be
Yeah.
sitting in
Yeah,
the
that's
office
true
too.
too, okay.
I'll make
You're
a-
happy and you're happy, right?
Yeah, the only comment I had really on this is in the non-building waiver, it notes a parcel A and a parcel B as being non-building waivers, but there's actually a lot 1 they call, which is where the house is, and then a parcel A, which is the rest of the property. I think that's supposed to just reference parcel A.
Yeah.
That was, I think, was my real. I gave you guys my copy, so.
Oh, yeah.
That and the question on the sewage and the county review, because I didn't receive either of those.
Yeah, I didn't see them either yet. Well, like I said, we're gonna try to do this a little differently, get the engineering report if we have to go back to the survey and make any changes before we start all signing all this crap.
Is that something that we should have changed on that, just rectify that?
It probably should be addressed, and I believe there's one other thing, which was up in the zoning information they put on here. They listed the minimum lot area for the house, the way it's listed, the minimum lot area is actually 2 acres for a non-public sewer. This is above 2 acres, but what they listed here was shown with 1 acre, which matches
That was
the
the
public
old-
sewer area.
Oh, okay.
So it actually, I mean, the note here is incorrect, but it's, the size of everything would meet what the code is.
Right.
It's just sort of a,
So there's 2 typographical errors, but no,
no issues as
Okay.
far as, content or anything besides that. Yeah, it's basically 2 typographical errors.
You didn't take us to the Washington County Planning Commission
No,
yet?
didn't you tell me you
Yeah,
mailed
we're
that
waiting.
to them?
No, not to the, I mailed it to
You
the
mailed it.
engineer.
Okay,
engineer.
okay.
Once we get his report back, we get any corrections, then we'll take it to the Washington.
Right, okay, yeah, so I didn't do anything, I'm like waiting on instructions, so.
They were trying to change this up because in the past, they go to the county and then they come to us and then we find errors and then
Oh, I
they're
see.
reviewed it, then they gotta look at it again and,
I'll make
Yeah.
a
because they
motion
don't,
to
they don't
accept the
review it very well at the county sometimes.
Exactly.
subdivision with the correction of the 2 errors in the description for the non-building waiver and in the lot size. Kathy seconds. Any questions on the motion?
let me just clarify the motion. You're saying that we're accepting the preliminary as it is, we're not really saying we're sending to the supervisors at this point, because we're missing those 2 modules, right? You don't want
What's
to
going, right, it ain't going to the supervisors till we get the sewage council and the.
Did
planning
you
commission.
want it to come back through us?
No. unless
Okay.
you guys
Then,
want it.
okay, I understand how you worded it, that's well done.
He's doing it.
Hmm?
He's taking
Oh,
notes
okay.
too.
Oh, you can take notes.
Okay.
No, you're doing good, John. John, you're doing good,
My
buddy.
pen ran out of ink.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
So
Plan
now
number
do
two.
I send that now to the county?
No, you gotta
Well-
get the corrections made.
We'll
Get
get,
the
go
corrections?
back to the surveyor, we'll get these corrections
Okay.
made.
Which
Then
are
send
very
it to
minor.
Washington
Yeah.
County for
Okay.
signatures, and we'll get all the signatures and
Does
then. then
Does
bring
it have to
back.
go? Does it have to go to supervisors
Yes,
Yeah.
after,
after these
hopefully,
guys?
hopefully within the next week or two, you get all these corrections made.
Yeah,
We bring it back in, he has to sign them, supervisors have to sign it. So we need the planning commission and we need the sewage council.
Okay, but he has to sign off first, right? Then it goes to the supervisors, and then it goes to the county.
county
No.
first.
County first.
County.
No, you want county
Right
first.
after tonight, go, get
Get
the
the corrections.
surveyor corrections, go to the county and give me the information from the sewage council.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll get a report back from the county.
And their meeting's on the 18th.
18th, okay.
Whose meetings?
Huh?
Whose
The
meetings? Supervisor, yeah.
Supervisors, okay.
So we'll
How
try
long
to
does
get it
that
all.
usually take at the county level, do you know?
No, I don't know, I never.
that matters how much stuff they have there, goes through all that.
Yeah, I can't control that.
Okay, no, I know, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll
This
just
month
try to
is
get it
if
into
they're there.
them as quickly as
Oh, if
possible.
they're
Yeah, because you
there.
guys, holidays and
Yeah.
it takes a while,
Okay,
so,
Sue's report on this.
or the quicker you get it to them.
Immediately,
If you get it
tomorrow.
to- Unless it's in there.
Yeah, it was two right
Because
here.
I'll
I had
call
two. I
the
had this
surveyor
one.
and I'll have him make those
Separate.
corrections. He'll email them to me, I'll send them to the
They're
printer.
very minor, you'll bring it up.
Yeah.
Make the changes and be done with it.
Okay,
3 to 5 minutes.
yeah, and then he could just,
Take it longer to print it out than it does to
right,
make the
yeah,
changes.
exactly.
Okay, second one's
I
question.
think don't have to take 3 copies.
There you go.
That sounds like a mountain.
The engineer has it.
Did you pick up your report on Douglas? His lady?
Don't pick anything.
Empty your pocket. I know you got it. I got the clear. I just seen Douglas. There it is. All right, good.
What did you find this time? What did you find on this?
Huh?
I'm trying to keep my motion, I'm sorry to get ahead of the motion, I know what you're gonna do, I just gotta have, I'm sure I have it all done.
Okay, we got the Douglas subdivision, which is in the state. Reason for the subdivision is mother died, splitting the parcel up so each son can have a piece of it. It's MU, quarter acre size, minimum lot.
So it's beyond the building lines then.
So it meets the requirements. Well, it's
It's,
a
it's
non-conforming.
existing, it's
Non-conforming.
non-conforming, but that's an existing condition.
Yeah, it's an existing house, or garage, whatever, apartment.
And Ray's report said he found no
Raised.
signs of malfunction, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that one actually was
Initially
pretty good,
inspected.
actually. I mean, there's the minor things that are in the code as far as the contours and the ground
Well, we're
cover
gonna talk
and stuff
about
like that.
that,
That's in every one, but
Right.
there's nothing, all the zoning information is correct. It meets all the lot sizes and issues as far
So
as
this,
that goes.
the sewage council of Plan 2 module has to be approved by the supervisor with resolution, that's what we're looking for. By resolution, you guys gotta sign it, you have to approve it, they have to approve it to get the DEP to approve it, because DEP doesn't do anything under an acre or something like that. Okay? But there's no malfunctions, there's no big issues.
I'll make a motion to accept the subdivision as presented with the stipulation of the resolution from the sewage council.
And it has to go to, the
County.
same thing has to go to the county for their approval. We got the sewage.
I'll second that.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We got a motion to approve pending sewage council.
John seconded.
Nice and simple, right?
Yep. You need a break for your presentation?
I am. It's actually really quick and simple.
Any other new business anybody have?
You want to sign this and we can read it.
We'll go to old business.
Old business. I handed back out the earlier changes to the definition that I had talked about. Actually, I realized this is all the way back in April or May's meeting. And the other piece that I handed you, the two stapled, double-sided, are the 33 items that are required. And we make no delineation of whether or not that is for a planned residential development or a simple subdivision. All 33 of these, as it stands right now, count for all of them. And they are very burdensome if you are not moving a lot of earth and making major changes and you're just doing a simple subdivision. So to go back over what we talked about in April or May, we already have a definition for minor subdivision minor in the documentation. I'm proposing that we actually give that a second subsection. So you'll see the highlighted A is on there. And by the way, these are all under the definitions portion of 178. 178-11 is the definition portion. The new piece, which would be sub B, is that we define the division of property into 2 or 3 separate parcels which will qualify for clean and green tax preference upon completion of the subdivision, require no new streets, have direct access to an existing street by private drive or right-of-way, have permitted on-lot sewage permits, or are declared non-build parcels, and have minimal land disturbance such as normal to farming or single-family dwelling construction. This is kind of in there so that if you're taking a very large parcel and you're making it into 3 right at the moment, the way our plan reads, you end up pushing yourself into the larger subdivision group, regardless of whether you're doing this for 2 small lots or large parcels. So I'm recommending that we consider sending to the supervisors this idea that there should be a split there. The second addition is that we add a definition for subdivision medium. And that medium is a subdivision of land into 4 or 5 lots, not involving any new street or easement of access or extension of public or private improvements. And then B, a division of property into 4 or 5 separate parcels which will qualify for clean and green tax preference upon completion of the subdivision, requiring no new streets, have direct access to an existing street by private drive, have permitted on-lots permits, or are declared non-building parcels, and have minimal land disturbance such as normal to farming or single-family dwelling construction. Again, my idea behind this whole thing is that when families want to split things apart, especially when it's a large thing, if we're really not moving a lot of earth, like happens with a planned development, and we're not adding new streets and we're not doing all those things, we shouldn't be burdening them with all 33 of these items. So having said, and also, let me finish on this one. I said, I think we should add definitions to actually split out the concept of a farmette versus a farm. We're seeing more and more 10+ acre parcels that aren't really being used for farming. They're just very nice areas to keep the neighbors at bay for whatever reason. Somebody wants a lot of land around their house. And, you know, they're running down into that small size. The only thing with Farm Ed is I think it probably should have a range. Yeah, whether that's 10 to 30 acres or something, 10 to 20 acres. And then after that, I don't know what we really would call it. And then we don't define farm, even though we have lots of them around here. So I basically said, I think we probably should by saying a parcel where the primary use is consistent with general farming practices and which qualifies for clean and green tax preference. That will keep it out of the commercial side because you can't get clean and green if it's commercialized. It basically ties in the whole idea of that it is actually being used as a farm under the process. So again, all these are open for, no, we don't think we ought to do that as a group, send it forward or not. I put it forward. The piece I wanted to start tonight, having rehashed that, is of these 33 items, once you get up to 1 through 8 are ones that I would consider that we should keep for all three, technically all four types of processes, whether it's a subdivision minor, subdivision medium, or a subdivision major, or a PRD. 1 through 9 need to be there, and we need to pretty much try to hold to that as we're asking people to bring things in here. The question comes in after that, and again, the reason that I spelled out a lot of this minimal land disturbance, other than what would be normal for building a single family residence, is we're still technically asking, and I noticed the one plot had it today. Congratulations to whoever sent that one in. That's the first one I think I've seen with the intervals on there that way. But we're asking even small subdivisions to give us this 2-foot vertical intervals, and quite honestly, that's a very expensive process to go through. You know, if we just said a USGS map was good enough, then it might be something a little bit better. But what's being asked for there is something that you would want to have if new streets are being built and new things are occurring. And but it's not really something that if you're not doing major changes to the land when you're building a house, I'm not sure why we need it at that elevation. 10 is the steep slope category. Again, if we want 10 to be noted that there are steep slopes on a parcel, I guess that's one thing. But to at what level we want to go after that is another piece. The soils, identify soil series is shown on the soil survey of Washington County, plot soil limit lines on the base map. We know what they are, and the only real purpose for soil that I've been able to find throughout the rest of the document is because we're worried about sewage, and the sewage guys do quite a good job of making sure what soils are where when they say yes or no to putting the system in and what type of system it can be. So I'm not sure on these small subdivisions why we are looking to have that in there. 12 is one that I think I would leave in for all three. I don't know that we're going to see very many subdivisions that care about the regulated waters of the Commonwealth, because we don't have very many regulated waters of the Commonwealth in our township. And the dam safety and waterway management, in floodplains, yeah, those are all there, and floodplains should be noted where people are building in it, and we always push that one. So I think 3 stays, for the floodplain. Existing general vegetative cover, again, if we're not disturbing enough ground to really be impacting the large-scale area vegetation of a property, I'm not sure why we're asking for that to be part of the process. If we are going to be changing the runoff characteristics, because we're changing a lot of vegetation as we tear up a lot of ground to do a major subdivision or planned residential development, I can understand it. Just not sure why we need it there for the other pieces. The significant existing natural features, I really like this one, including plant and wildlife habitat. I think most of our subdivisions could say that, yeah, there's probably deer running through a lot of them. Actually, since they run right through Hickory, I think the whole mixed use area can say that there's wildlife habitat. The potential hazard existing features including quarry sites, surface, subsurface mines, undermined areas, underground fire, solid waste disposal sites, contaminated areas, wells, landslide prone areas. Again, I'm not sure why we're burdening people to have to go try to define whether or not this is there to get a 2-acre parcel so their son can build a house or their daughter can build a house. It just seems a little bit tight to me for the small stuff. Significant existing cultural features, cemeteries, burial sites, I think that should stay. I don't know what it plans, because that's more of a knowledge type thing in my brain. So I said that all 3 should have that. Existing structures, I can agree that any existing structure should be on there. I don't see that as a problem. If things, the question comes down to when we get into things like the significant cultural features and existing structures. Is that something that the surveyor needs to plot out and be 100% that's where that corner of that house is, or is this an acknowledgement by sketch that there is a house there that will be demolished so that a new house can be built? We usually, I think in my time here, we've only had that issue one time, and that was because they were trying to define whether or not the on-lot septic was going to be the untested on-lot septic was going to stay on the parcel that was being subdivided when the house was torn down. As I recall, the septic system was not on the parcel that was being subdivided where the house was going to be taken down. Again, that's the existing feature type thing. I think it is important to be there, but it's the surveyor's got to hit all 4 corners of that house and everything else as they're doing the rest of this thing. It's just it's more hours. So I can go either way on that one. Like I say, the real question to me is, is it a sketch version or is it a survey version? Existing streets, road, alleys, drives, other means of access. I think that is for all 3 of them. Approximate location of and here's a good example of that house port that I was putting there. Under 19, we're allowed to do approximate locations of existing sanitary sewer, water mains, storm drains, electric power, transmission structures, gas distribution, or other underground or above ground items within the tract or immediately adjacent thereto with type, ownership, direction of flow, and pressure indicated. My only concern there is direction of flow and pressure indicated. I think they should be removed from the process. Quite honestly, sometimes I don't know if the utilities know for sure which way things are moving at any given day. You know, it's just, the water systems are so tied together anymore, there are places where it could flow one way today and flow somewhere else at dinner time, flow the other direction at dinner time, just because of usage type things. Location, ownership, type of other easements or right-of-ways, including railroads, trails, gas, oil wells, yeah, I think that belongs to all three. Layout of proposed streets, well, if we already said in the definitions, there are no new streets or anything, there's really no reason for that to be included in the minor and the medium subdivision group. The proposed layout, numbering, scale, dimensions, approximate minimum, maximum area of lots. When lots are located on a curve, when defined, that, while 22 doesn't say it directly, that again is much more into the idea of you're doing a lot of lots and you're going to be doing smaller size lots. So, 22, you know, take a look at it, tell me what you think, but I'm not so sure that it needs to be that defined. Maybe it just needs reduced, or maybe we need to ask it a different way if we think it's all. Parcels of land intended to be dedicated or reserved for public use. Most people doing simple subdivisions don't give parks away at the same time. PRDs, we kind of demand that they give some kind of open space in park area. So, you know, 23 is definitely out, in my opinion. Proposed building, parking areas, access drive, driveways, and other significant features.
Back up a minute on that 23.
Yeah,
Sometimes maybe somebody might want to give land like to the Allegheny Trust, or, you know.
there's a difference. And Kathy, I understand what you're asking. Normally, and when there's a PRD, and I don't know if ours requires it. Do we require so much parkland to be
Green space.
open space to be?
Green space, yeah.
Do we? When a PRD's been, that's the part that 23 is talking about. If you want to give a whole section of land, if you want to subdivide 10 acres and give it to a .org, that's fine. That is actually just doing another simple subdivision. That's not this piece. This is because when we say that, hey, you know, when Alex built that down there, he had to leave, I don't know how many acres, I'm sure it's in the record somewhere, that he had to leave so much space as open or green space.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying, when people subdivide off 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres, we're not gonna ask them for park space, so why are we even including it in something that our engineer has to review? Proposed utilities and related easements show points of connection to existing utilities. I'm still waiting for West Penn to tell me where my point of connection is gonna be out of 3 poles that are possible. So I don't know how you put that on a subdivision plan when you don't know from West Penn which way they're gonna have you do it, so. You know, I don't, again, when it comes to the simple stuff, I think it's there. When you're building something big and it's, you know, a PRD, then yeah, I think they do need to be able to say, hey, this is how Columbia Gas is going to supply gas to your PRD. This is how West Penn's gonna bring in, you know, extended service. Proposed pedestrian and bicycle circulation routes, including any easements or right-of-way. Again, I don't think we see that in our average small subdivision, that we ask for bike routes and things, so. Alternate final grade all streets, again, no streets, why do we even ask? Why should a person have to do it? Drainage proposals, again, where minimal earth movement and everything, minimal vegetation disturbance, I don't see it. Building lines measured from property lines and the right-of-way line, to me, on a simple, that's a setback issue, that's not something that we need to be calling out and saying, hey, for sure, this house is gonna go here, and thus it sits this far away from the back setback line. In case the plan includes only part of the tract owned by the subdivider, the remainder or as much thereof as the planning commission may consider necessary to ensure a satisfactory layout of the portion of the subdivided shall be shown with a tentative street layout indicated by dashed lines. Once again, if we're not asking for streets in those two definitions, why are we asking for streets on the process? Name, address, phone number of the firm that prepared the plans, the name, signature, registration number, and seal of the engineer, surveyor, landscape depth. Yes, I think that belongs on all three still. And proposed phasing lines, phasing is a PRD term, it's not a subdivision term. So 33 should not be required under the minor and medium subdivisions. That's my latest take on this process to try to get us simplified. I would also bring up two things. I think there should be a chart created. If we don't want to change the whole thing, then we should, and Tom had mentioned this could go both ways. If the supervisors want to say, look, we'll grant a standard variance or exception, I always get the two wrong.
For what?
Well, when you're saying I don't want to have to do the 2-foot contours, you're asking for a variance, right?
Variance.
Yeah. So if the supervisors want to say that, hey, here's a chart, if you're doing a simple subdivision, a medium subdivision, you only have to do this portion, then, you know, he doesn't have to write in his report that, hey, we didn't give the 2-foot contours, we didn't do this, they didn't do that. On the other hand, we could change it inside the full document instead. I would recommend that the chart would be much quicker and much simpler. And I think that's what Tom was leaning towards when we talked about this the first time around. The other thing I would suggest is that we clarify this concept of the items that should be able to go straight to the supervisors. And you know, one of those that stood out very strong was this idea of reducing lots versus subdividing. So, you know, if somebody wants to take 3 lots as an example and wants to turn them into 2 lots by drawing 1 new line and erasing 2 lines, I'm not sure why, and you're leaving it as non-built, you're not changing it, you're not doing that in such a way as to build a new structure. I shouldn't have to come through here. It should be a simple matter of join the lots. Now I'm drawing a blank at what the other one was, but there was another example that we had not long ago that was, that fell, it was.
Z-line. We did some Z-lines, a lot of
Yeah.
Z-lines.
Yeah, the Z-line scenarios, where, again, if you get done moving the property, if there's 2 properties and they're shifting a line, or they're splitting the property in the middle and they're going to 2 properties that already have existing sewage and everything else, and you're just Z-lining those across, there's no reason at all that it should have to go through the whole process. There needs to be and I didn't find a good example one, thus you don't have one in front of you. I'm hoping maybe the engineer or somebody can, maybe if this has been somewhere else, find a place where it says, hey, this is the definition of of ones that should be expedited. We do have a process for expediting, but it's not very clear. So maybe what we really need to do is to get the, I'll never find it quickly. Maybe we just need to look at that definition again for the expedited approval process. And then say, yes, we're comfortable that these are the ones, or we're not comfortable that they're the ones. So, again, not an action item, just another step in the process that we've been trying to do. And I gave Bill a copy, and I gave our fine engineer a copy, so that if they want to comment on it as we get ready to push it forward.
Okay, so back up
Yep.
and just tell me which ones you want to keep, or for under, like the minor and the medium.
We're gonna go back over that again.
Right.
We'll be back, we'll have another meeting on that again.
Oh, well, so I can kind of think about it though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you take it home, you know what, put down which ones you think should and shouldn't.
Now,
That
I
would
want you
be
to tell me
very
which ones you
useful.
think.
I just wrote all mine down here, Ken. After you get past 8, the only ones I left in as 3 are 12,
Wait a minute.
12, 16, 17, 18, 20, and 32.
24.
Did I say 24 as well?
Yeah, it's proposed buildings. Oh, no, I wiped that off, never mind.
No, if you think it should be, we'll gladly take it.
20.
That's, seriously, I think this thing's gonna take, you know.
He's after that 24?
No.
No, I don't agree with 24, but others might, and that's
And
the
32.
important thing of it. I was just throwing out the starting point.
I think I marked that, as that you were starting to go through it, I was working ahead, guessing which ones you were gonna say, and I think that's the only one that I had marked down that you didn't
Okay.
mention. And
So-
I thought if it's a proposed building and you're subdividing, put a building on it, you know it's gonna go there.
Yeah.
You might as well show it. If you have a sign, the only issue is sometimes the proposed building isn't what gets built.
Right,
So,
that can happen,
And-
or
and-
somebody could be building their house so tight to the back property line, and then another person in the family tells them that they might wanna move that forward a little bit, or they're, you know.
or
Yeah,
they
there's
get a
lots
little-
of reasons
They're
people
more
move out.
ambitious than what their bank account allows.
Yeah, that's another possibility, so, yeah. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else? John, you ready to say? Catherine?
I just
Any
want to say
questions?
one thing. When you were talking about variance, wouldn't it be better just to give a waiver? I mean, wouldn't a variance require some other actions from neighbors and so forth?
You still gotta have, depending on what the variance is, you still might have to have action through the township, you know, with the,
I just like simple waivers, you know, you guys just wave it along through, you know what I mean, versus
Like I said,
less
I
red
might
tape
have,
is a lot nicer in the world, you know, it's,
they're easier.
yeah.
Any other questions from the, hi, Bill?
Hey, Bill?
Bill, you have anything to say?
No, I'm good.
The only real other thing I have to add is with your simple subdivisions, maybe consider, he sort of mentioned it when you're separating like 3 into 2, but maybe just a consolidation of 2 properties. You know, somebody just
well, that
joining this
one's,
property, that one,
that one's the one I really wanna try to get under
that you don't have to even deal with.
right, review the expedited, and it goes straight to the supervisors.
But if they don't want to go for that, at least move it to the
That's true.
minor subdivision category, so it doesn't have to go through all the other stuff as well.
Does it make it easier on you doing all this?
Yeah, I mean, that's less I gotta look at.
It's called a subdivision plat adjustment in the definitions right now. An adjustment to a, oh, this is what was funny, to a final subdivision plat for any of the following. Adjustment of lot lines between lots where no new lots are created, no new streets or easements or access are created, and no public or private improvement extensions are involved. Consolidation of lot lines, survey and corrections, including final survey and correction lot lines, townhouses, and other attached dwellings after construction when in conformance with previously recorded plans. The problem is that that plat adjustment tends to fall, as I remember correctly, in this book, that's the definition side, tends to fall under the PRD side again. So it doesn't, it's not really open to the general join up 2 5-acre parcels, now I have 10 acres. Doesn't fit there. So that may be where it needs changed, is to actually get it out of the PRD portion enough that people that want to consolidate a lot line can either go through the simple subdivision or can go through the expedited side.
Any other comments from anybody? Anything? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna do the obvious if you, but
Well,
if you
we
got something
got one
else.
other thing we gotta do is, Bill, when's the reorganization meeting?
I have no idea.
You don't know yet. Is everybody still gonna be on the board next year, or anybody quitting?
You're the one that's up, right?
I don't know about mine.
I'm pretty sure you're the one that's up.
You wanna ditch me?
No, I don't wanna ditch you, I'm just saying, you need to ask yourself